Hey, it's Mike Levy, answering 10 questions for Tucson musicians. I first started playing music when I was about 8 years old. My parents took me for guitar lessons. On the way home, after the first lesson, I tripped and snapped the neck off the rental guitar, and they immediately switched me to the piano. I am predominantly a bass player, electric and jazz upright. I do consider myself pretty competent as a guitarist and a piano player, and can hold my own on drum set and hand percussion. As a producer, I tend to dabble in lots of little things. I love playing the accordion and lap steel, play a little bit of mandolin, cavaquinho. I've been known to do a cello track, borrowing my daughter's half-size cello. I can make a sound on the trumpet, and I can also make a sound and play a couple major scales on the clarinet and saxophone. In terms of a bad musical gig experience, I try not to take any gig experience for granted. I've done some other jobs, and my worst gig is generally better than my best day as an administrative assistant. So my bad musical memories tend to revolve around equipment malfunctions. I have a very traumatic memory of playing with a singer-songwriter in New York City. I was playing upright bass, and in the middle of the song, the bridge popped out of my bass, and it was like an explosion, and it seemed like there were parts everywhere, and I felt like my bass had just crumbled apart. And I can just still feel the terror that I felt that day when that happened. In terms of my best musical experience, it's more of a group of experiences. I lucked out and married a wonderful woman who sings Brazilian bossa nova and Portuguese, and I love getting to record and perform with her. And starting when my son's about 9 years old, and he's 15 now, he has done gigs with us on either guitar or bass, and he plays guitar on other gigs with me now, and it's indescribable what a thrill it is to be on stage with both of those people. My secret musical crush, I think I have to go back to maybe being when I was 12 years old, and I did use my own money to buy a 45 of Belinda Carlisle's Mad About You, and the only reason I can think that I would have done that would have been some type of secret musical crush. Without a doubt, my biggest musical influence would be my brother Adam, who's also a bass player. He started playing bass a little bit before I did, and he got some great teachers who turned him on to some great music, and he would always bring that home and show me what he learned and play for me the things that got played for him. And so most of the things that are in my musical repertoire are things that somehow or another stemmed from him showing me something. My guilty pleasure would definitely have been after I'd spent a good few months working on the last Nosa Bossa Nova album. It was really intense, and I was very proud. It was a great album, but I just needed a little bit of time to kind of decompress and clear my head, and it just happened to coincide with Meghan Trainor and All About That Bass being on the radio. And I spent about 2 weeks non-stop listening to Meghan Trainor's EP and loving every minute of it. this question in terms of music I can't stand. This is gonna irk my jazz friends, and I want to make clear that this is about music. That this is about listening to music and not playing music. I have not found a spot for hard bop music yet. I try a little bit, and I have not found anything to latch on to. And there are lots of sounds that I don't necessarily enjoy listening to when I'm just listening to music. And the songs are all really, really, really long. So it just doesn't speak to me personally. If I had to describe my musical talent in 3 words, I would say reliable, attentive, and fun. Those are 3 things that I'm always trying to bring to any musical experience, whether it's on a gig or in the studio. I want those 3 things to be part of what I do. If I had to pick 5 albums from my 6-month journey to Mars, this is actually pretty easy for me. It would be Elise and Tom by Elise Agina and Tom Jobim. It would be Paul Simon's Negotiations and Love Songs compilation. James Taylor Live, the double album from the mid-90s. Joni Mitchell's Don Juan's Reckless Daughter, and Home by the Dixie Chicks. But I'd also have to add that if my wife was not coming with me, that I would have to swap one of those out for one of our albums so I could hear her voice. To anyone considering being a working musician, I would say 1, it's definitely the best job I've ever had, and 2, it's totally possible to make a living doing it. I would say diversify, get out of your comfort zone, learn how to play music that you don't necessarily like or that you have not been exposed to yet. You learn how to read chord charts, even better, learn how to read notation. The more valuable you are, the more valuable you are, and none of those skills will hurt you in any way. And I would say don't get thrown off by the occasional failure on a gig. We all have moments that don't live up to our own standards, and the way that feels in your head is way worse than it felt or sounded to anyone on the gig or in the audience. As musicians, we can get into our own heads and overanalyze things, but just make sure that you can move past those moments that don't live up to your own standards. In terms of singing in the shower, I don't find myself doing it that often, but if I did, I would think it would be one of the moments that my kids hate, when I make up silly songs based on the situation. So I could easily see myself maybe singing something like Elton John's Don't Let the Suds Go Down the Drain, maybe. That sounds very mean.